Hi, I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick.
Welcome to the Nick and Lawrence Show.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It is. Except today. It was like 70 degrees.
Right. Starting to get warmer, like we were talking.
It's going the wrong direction.
November was definitely cold, and now we're going back into our sunny California 70-degree weather.
Which, I mean, it's not actually common for the Sacramento area. It's pretty unusual. It's been raining all week, so it's nice to have a little break. But it's...
well, if you're in Southern California, in the Anaheim area and the Disneyland area, it's, a nice 75-degree weather.
75 always, yeah.
Always.
Well... you're looking very bright and twinkly today.
Yep.
So,
and
festive. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, originally we had a plan to do the Walt Disney Family Museum. We were going to save that for our surprise, but unfortunately we had things that came up, so we couldn't do it. So maybe sometime in the near future we'll do that. But we decided that we would do kind of as we're in the Christmas season, we'd kind of look a little bit on Walt Disney. We had done it before, but we dive into a couple of other things that I found that I had laying around the house. We have this Childhood of Famous Americans Walt Disney book. It's a really cool book here.
It's like a kid's book.
Kid's book. And then I just recently got this. It's a Life magazine of Walt Disney. Everybody's got to have Life magazines.
Yeah, of course.
Like in Back to the Future,
Yeah, I think I have that one.
Yeah. So.
And the reason why we're talking about Walt Disney specifically is because his birthday is in December.
In December. Of course, he was born and he died within December, 10 days apart.
Yeah. He was born December 5th.
And then he died 10 days later on December 15th.
Yep. So he would have been 118 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been dead anyways by now.
Right.
But
I don't think anybody would live that long.
So we want to talk about him because he's somebody we admired, and obviously we talk a lot about Disney on this channel. So let's dive right in.
I think the Life magazine is really cool because there's so many cool pictures. I like this picture right here that's really in the front of Walt and his model, the train.
That's the one at Disneyland.
That's the one at Disneyland, yeah.
Yeah. But it's modeled after his Lilybell, right?
Lilybell, and Lilybell came after his wife, Lillian.
Right. And, what's the name of his railway? It's like, starts with a C.
The E.P. Rip.
No, at his house. I thought it was... He named it. It was named something. Yeah.
He named some... I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I think... It starts with a C. I can't remember. It's like Carwood or something.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Cartel or something.
Yeah. Well, if you let us know in the comments if you know. But, yeah, he loved his trains, right? And... for those of us who are fans, you probably know all about Walt Disney at this point, and we have had a couple of videos on him in the past. But we thought it'd be fun to talk about him again and just go through some of the little things that maybe you didn't know about him and see what we got here in the magazine.
I think we'll look at the Life magazine because there's so many great pictures and stuff. I mean, I know that when I went to and I've been a few times to the Disney Museum, and Nick went over the summertime for his birthday. But like this is him during the about when he was 17, 18 years old during the First World War and stuff. In fact, it talks about him actually because he was born in 1901, but he forged his signature and his handwriting to make himself a year older. I think he was 18. He made himself to be 18, so he, forged his. I think he forged the 1 into a 0 in a way, and I thought that was pretty cool and interesting. Just, him. I think this is this is a cool picture of him later when he was doing the.
That's not him.
That's not it.
That's Iwerks.
Iwerks, okay.
Yeah.
I thought.
It's hard because it's black and white. No, that was his partner, the one who he worked with in animation and from the beginning. Which there's a lot, like he was involved in a lot. I think he actually is the one who drew Mickey. Walt had the idea of Mickey, but then got Mickey like on paper in Walt's vision, and they kind of refined him together, and or it might have been Oswald, but
I don't think Walt's in this one, but it is the Disney crew. Wait, I think.
Oh yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
This is a good picture of the Disney crew in 1928, a year after Walt started. After he did the Alice cartoons.
Well, that was Mickey's 90th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1928.
1928.
He was born.
One of the early Macy's parades. We should have shown this when we were doing our Thanksgiving thing, but.
Well, and if you watch the Macy's parade this year, you saw that they had to limit it because it was really windy in New York.
Yeah.
And so they had to keep. I think they left some of the balloons out, and they had to keep the other ones like really low. Yeah. So it was different this year.
I think this picture is the first color. I'm pretty sure, first color of the band concert, which you can see on. I recommend doing Disney Plus, and this is a really great cartoon if you haven't seen it. The band concert.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love a lot of the pictures in here of Walt and just the early years, and get an idea of Hollywood in the 1920s. To trying to look at this one. Oh, this is Snow White.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we won't go through all of it, but just to give you an idea of some of the.
And if you've heard the stories of Walt and the movies when he was getting into it, he was really revolutionary. And if you know anything about Hollywood back in the early 1920s, 1930s, it was pretty savage because everything was new. They were learning new technologies. So, the Technicolor, like for Wizard of Oz. Well, if you go look at read the stories of behind the scenes and kind of what happened on set, it like for Wizard of Oz, not Disney, but it was really brutal acting for the actors, and Walt's movies were a lot different because it just people wanted to be in his movies, and he had he had a future vision, and so it wasn't as Wild West in his movies, being in his movies, as it was like the other movies that you just hear the stories of some of these actors, and you're just like, gosh.
So this is a fun fact that you may know. You were just mentioning Wizard of Oz, and did you know that he was almost about? I think he was going to do the Wizard of Oz. I think if you watch the Wizard of Oz and see all the documentaries that go with the movie on Blu-ray and stuff, there's actually film footage of Walt Disney in there, so he was actually going to get the rights to the Wizard of Oz. In fact, in their years later, when he finally got into the Disneyland TV show, that I found of interest was that he had planned, after that movie had come out and it had been years past, he was going to redo it and he was going to do a cartoon. In fact, when they celebrated their 4th anniversary of the TV show, they had a big segment in their TV show where they were going to do the Wizard of Oz as a cartoon and stuff, and the Mouseketeers from the Mickey Mouse Club were promoting it.
Oh,
cool. So Walt always had a way of doing advertisements and stuff through his TV shows and stuff, and he marketed it, but it never got made or produced.
Oh.
But in the TV show, they advertised that they were getting ready to do it, and then it never happened.
Yeah. Well, and they did that sequel just about 5 years ago with with newer actors. It was like Return to Oz or something, or Oz, the Great and Powerful.
Right.
Not Return to Oz. That was the actual sequel, but this one was with what's the guy's name? The Franco guy.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can't think of his first name. But that actually was a Disney movie.
Right.
So I'm not sure if the Walt Disney Company has the rights to the Wizard of Oz now, or they share the rights with MGM.
Right.
But
so I think what I was just, as we're talking, flipping through the book, I think this picture here, I think is a favorite of mine, is Walt getting his not so famous Oscar for Snow White, but seeing him with Shirley Temple.
Yeah. So, well, and if you're watching the documentaries, you know that I think he had actually was telling Shirley Temple, or he told somebody that he didn't want that award.
He didn't want,
because it was honorary. It wasn't an actual Oscar. It was.
You can see if they freeze framed it enough that you see a very sad, disappointed look, and it wasn't until Mary Poppins that he finally got
his first Oscar.
He got his first real Oscar.
I think he was offended that they gave him that one. But I mean, it was still an honor. But
I mean, I think he even with kids around, he said, like in the picture we just showed you, just happy-go-lucky person.
Yeah. Well, and that, if you go to the Walt Disney Family Museum,
Yeah.
that's actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is what I like about this, and I'm grateful that I have this magazine because, well, we couldn't do the museum on this, and maybe someday we'll do it, but this magazine almost represents the Family Museum, and I highly, recommend going on. Someday we'll try to when we don't have too much going on, but we'll try to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just so many.
There's lots. If you want to know about Walt and his life, and now, go to the museum in San Francisco. But then also, now you have an opportunity to learn more by checking out Disney Plus.
Right.
So not only do you have this literally Disney's full catalog of movies, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, there's movies all from every decade, all of the classics. They're all in digital. Yeah. And you can go watch everything, even stuff you probably forgot about.
So there's two that I recommend if you're doing the Disney Plus, if you want to learn about Walt Disney, classic, and that is if you go to the Through the Decades on Disney Plus, you can, there's two of Walt's TV shows, real actual TV shows are on there. There's one during the 50s from his Disneyland TV show, a year after they had opened the park, and then there's the one that we've talked about in the previous ones called Disneyland Around the Season, which came out right around, it was a couple of days after his death or something. They showed, it was one of the last times that people saw. I think they still kept filming. They had pre-taped everything in advance, so they had enough, I think, to go into, early 67 or so. And they had enough footage of him to so it was you could experience Walt from 66 to 67 in that season. And then after that, I think they went for another 3 more years, and then they didn't have any footage, or they went to other people for hosts. But no, I just saw the Imagineering stuff.
Yeah, the Imagineering story.
That's really cool.
That's actually a series.
An original series. It's
every week there's a new episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've gotten caught up. I like the first 3 that kind of talk about Walt's history and what before, during, and after his death.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole first episode, I didn't know what it was when I started watching it, but the whole first episode is all about Walt, and it gives a little brief history of him, like a little biography almost of who he was, and then it talks about opening Disneyland and all the stuff that Walt went through, to get Disneyland open, and then his brother, dealing with the finances and all that. So it's really interesting. And then goes into the second episode, and that talks about after Walt's death, and then Roy opening Disney World, and then also through that they talk about opening Tokyo Disneyland. And
one of the things I really like in watching all of that is, at least up to what we've gotten so far, is I like that they would go and put inserts of Walt's audio and stuff to, to say, here's the original Imagineer, which I really thought was probably, I've seen a lot of documentaries that start off with him and then they go and move forward into what Disney does, but I really thought this one was probably the best one because, like I said, his voice or audio throughout the other documentaries after they're going with the other people, that they're still going back to Walt.
Yeah, well, and it's like a docu-series, so they're interviewing everybody that has worked for Disney or currently works for Disney, all the Imagineers. It's really about the Imagineers. And the starting of that, and they even, I think it's in the 3rd episode, they talk about the transition in leadership to Michael Eisner, and Michael Eisner is actually on the documentary talking about his time at at Disney, and so it's created, I think it's directed or produced by Iwerks' granddaughter, or it's somebody in the family, because somebody in the it's produced sense. by his name, it says an Iwerks production.
That's cool. Yeah, I like seeing the people like Raleigh Crump, who you'll see when we did my Treasure Box series, and we did the Disneyland Secret Story of Magic. He's actually interviewed then, and he's interviewed now, and I thought it was really cool to see the Imagineers who were in documentaries for DVD sets in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing them here. And so you see the ones that worked with Walt or were like a little kid when the park first opened, and then see where they're like 40 or 50 or 60.
Well, it's very detailed because they go through not only his story but the parks,
right?
And then they interview people who actually invented the rides. You
right.
know, people who were involved in creating every aspect of it, and that's why it's called the Imagineering story, because everybody that basically is behind everything that Disneyland has done, and it's really focused on not so much the movies. Well, I haven't seen the new episodes, but it's focused on the amusement parks,
right.
theme parks.
My favorite Imagineer of all of them has been Tony Baxter, and just hearing his story and knowing that he was there when Walt was there at the park, and then he figured a way to get in and work as I think like an orange juice squeezer or somebody, or an ice cream scooper. I think it was one of the two. But
the ice cream guy.
But he starts off there, but he works in Walt's Park, and then as time goes on, he becomes an Imagineer. So somebody who actually got to experience Walt and see him, and he couldn't do all the Disney stuff, but later on became. And I think that's really cool to hear somebody who is still living, I think he's younger than a lot of the Imagineers of the 90 Man who have since passed away.
Right.
But to hear that there's somebody who came in and was young enough, and then is now our parents' age and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean it is authorized or co-produced by the Walt Disney Company, so it's got a positive spin on it. They don't really talk about a lot of the negative things.
Right.
So everybody's kind of talking all the good stuff, but I haven't watched the whole thing, the new episodes, to see if they.
I won't spoil it because I've already gotten up to all of the episodes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm waiting for the.
Because I mean, as great as Disney was as a man, and he was still a man, and the whole company is still a company run by people. So there's a lot of things you'll hear about people that didn't like working for Disney, or people that don't like the Disney company right now, which is understandable. But there is genuine there's honesty in the people that they're interviewing. At least it seems like it. So, regardless of the negative things that every company deals with and people deal with, overall, just the whole story of the Disney parks is just really cool, and everybody that worked there, it seems like they just love working there.
I think when I watched the first part where it was Wallace opening the park and stuff, I think, and we've both watched the one that was done for PBS we talked about last time. What I really like is that there's enough colored footage of opening day. I mean, I've seen the black and white footage and have the whole life black and white footage, but it's really fun to see vintage colored film from 1955. I'll be honest. I mean, this is off topic of Walt, but I really have gotten into anybody who did for television, because it was very rare for television to be in color at that time. But I love finding nostalgic colored prints of things. The Adventures of Superman is one thing, and then there's a couple of other things that were actually done in that time period. So to see things, I'm like, ooh, I love the vibrant colors that were put out there in that time frame. And when Disney has all this old home movie footage or stuff that's not seen, I'm like, ooh, this is what Disneyland looked like.
Yeah, no, those are cool. Well, and there's things actually that I didn't know about, even after watching lots of different documentaries about Disneyland. The first episode even that talks primarily about Disneyland while Walt was alive in the opening. I didn't know that, and this might have been stuff that they'd never talked about until now. Like they were just getting it all produced for this documentary. But when they opened the park, Walt, he promised, he's like, I have to have the park open, by this time. And he had a decision to make because they were running, behind schedule and all that. And he had to choose either drinking fountains or bathrooms. And he said, well, people can buy Coke, but
they can't pee in the street.
Yeah, so they need the bathrooms. They don't need water. They can drink Coke. And then everybody at the time, it's funny because people were upset. They were thinking, oh, Disneyland's trying to get us to buy Coke. They're trying to manipulate us. But it was really because they had to do one or the other.
One or the other.
And
it's just all this. I mean, I've heard the stories countless times because I've watched them over and over. Like actually, I was found it interesting is that as I was watching this Imagineering story, like I said, we won't give away too much, but I did find something of interest is that when they created, I think it was Tokyo Disneyland, they had it some 50 years later. So there's a story in the park's opening for Disneyland that everybody's heard where women's high heels were sinking in the shoes. Well, at Tokyo, it was the park benches that were sinking into the cement after opening day.
The cement wasn't dry. Yeah, was it Disney, Tokyo Disney or Disney World where they had to bring helicopters in to dry the cement? I think it might have been
Tokyo.
Tokyo, yeah.
Tokyo.
Yeah, they were that they were that close to finishing. Like they're still working on it when it opens. But yeah, we like I said, we won't go into too many details. Definitely, if you have Disney Plus, watch those. If you don't, subscribe for the free 7-day trial and watch what they have on there.
We'll give you about a year or two, and then we can give away all the goodies and stuff. And then
but I will tell you one more thing about Disneyland, which is that what was I going to say? Oh no, I forgot. So there's a lot of little cool tidbits about Disneyland and Disney World, and Walt's vision for Disney World that he didn't get to see. And then Epcot and Tokyo Disney, and then I think actually the third episode talks about Michael Eisner, but also talks about Euro Disney, which is now Disneyland Paris, and all the stuff they learned and things that they did wrong opening the different parks and whatnot. But the one thing I was going to say about Disneyland was that they were over capacity because people were, counterfeiting the tickets to get in. So they just had way more than they were expecting. So I thought it was interesting that they talked about how people were, and it's not just this documentary that they talked about this. They've mentioned it before, and you've probably heard it in other documentaries about Disneyland. But people were counterfeiting the tickets, and then they were learning so much because this was all new to there was nothing else like Disneyland, and they were the teacups were breaking down because it was still being built, and they had welders on call fixing things as they broke. And even Autopia, people there was no structure to it. They were learning that the kids were just they weren't getting in line, they were just running up and stealing cars from other people and running into each other, and it was a mess, but it leveled out, and I mean now it is what it is, So
I found this picture, and I think this is a cool 1955s or 50s picture of Fantasyland before they reinvented it in the year that I was born, 1983. So so all the canvas tents, but I like Disneyland now. I like the architectural work of the park and stuff, but just so many.
Yeah. So, but I mean, we could go on and on and on, and we'll do another episode about this again, in a few months. Refresh
your memory and stuff,
But I guess just to close it out, I recommend checking out those documentaries and anything you can learn if you're a fan of Disney. Anything you can learn about him to kind of get context of why the parks were created and how the culture and this mentality that everybody still has of what would Walt do, and just everything about Disneyland. Check out Disney Plus.
That's definitely the second episode is what would Walt do. Love that title.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know what he would do, check out that particular episode.
Yeah, and. I don't know. Let us know in the comments what you like about Disneyland, Disney, Walt Disney. Maybe something that we didn't touch on that you know about Disney that you've heard, or stuff you don't like about Disney. Let us know in the comments. And
we got our Instagram to follow, and remember to like and subscribe to our channel and do all that fun stuff. And
all right.
I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. See ya.